My family sent me a $20,000 bill for a reunion. My own relatives tried to strong-arm me into paying a $20,000 bill for a reunion that was nothing but a blatant marketing ploy for my cousin. The sheer audacity and betrayal made my blood boil. You won't believe how they beat me down with accusations and manipulation just because I refused to be their personal ATM. I, 31F, I'll call myself Nina, earn more than most of my relatives. I don't talk about it unless someone asks directly. I don't post expensive stuff. I don't announce bonuses. I just live my life. The problem isn't that I helped before. The problem is how comfortable people are spending my money when I'm not even in the room. This started because of my cousin Tara, 28F. She runs a small online business and is constantly talking about visibility and branding. She decided the next family reunion would be the perfect chance to promote it, not by asking people to follow her, but by turning the reunion into what she called a soft launch environment. She told everyone it would make the reunion feel elevated. What she didn't do was pay for any of it. Instead, she went to my mom Clara and my uncle Victor with this whole pitch about how the reunion could look more professional if they upgraded everything. Better food, printed banners, coordinated colors, custom packaging, the works. She told them it would make the family look successful instead of cheap. They didn't tell her no. They also didn't ask me anything. They contacted vendors. They discussed prices. They picked options that were way more expensive than what we've ever done before. And every time someone asked about cost, the answer was apparently, "Don't worry, it's covered by me." I didn't even know any of this was happening until Tara messaged me on Instagram like it was already decided. She said, "Hey, I pitched a collab idea for the reunion and it's gonna look amazing. I just need you to back the costs so we can lock everything in. Not can you help? Not are you okay with this? Just you're paying, right?" I asked how much. She sent me the breakdown. It wasn't small. It wasn't even reasonable. It was basically a full event budget that just happened to double as marketing for her business. I told her no. Not gently, not angrily, just straight up no. She replied, "I already told people you were cool with helping." I said, "Then you shouldn't have done that." She said I was putting her in a bad position. I told her she put herself in that position by spending money that wasn't hers. She said, "You always say family matters, but now that I actually need you, suddenly it's boundaries." I told her family matters doesn't mean I bankroll personal projects. She left me on read. That night, my mom called and didn't even say hello before asking why I was trying to sabotage Tara's opportunity. I told her I wasn't sabotaging anything. I just wasn't paying for it. She said, "So you'd rather embarrass her than support her?" I said, "She embarrassed herself by promising money that wasn't hers." My mom said Tara was trying to build something and I should be proud of her initiative instead of shutting it down. I said initiative is paying for your own ideas. She said I was being harsh. I said I was being realistic. That's when she hit me with, "You always have money for yourself." I told her my bills are not community property. She said, "No one said that." I said, "Everyone acts like it." She told me I was changing and that I used to be more generous. I told her I used to be quieter. That didn't go over well. After that, I started getting messages from relatives I don't even talk to regularly, not asking what happened, just sending passive-aggressive comments like, "Hope everything works out with the reunion," and guess some people forget who they come from. I finally asked my sister what was being said about me. She told me that my mom and uncle were telling people I had agreed to sponsor the reunion and then backed out last minute, leaving everyone scrambling. That was a lie. I confronted my mom about it, and she said she might have framed it that way because she didn't want people thinking the family was disorganized. I told her she used my name to protect her image. She told me I was making it about myself. I said she already did. Then my uncle Victor called me, not to ask, not to clarify, but to lecture. He said I was forgetting where I came from and that I was letting money make me cold. He said when someone in the family succeeds, they're supposed to lift everyone else with them, not start acting like an outsider. I told him lifting people doesn't mean being used as a credit card. He said I was being dramatic and that if I can afford comfort, I can afford contribution. I told him contribution doesn't mean paying for other people's ideas without being asked. He said, "So you're just going to sit there and let everyone think we failed because we couldn't afford something nice?" I said, "That sounds like a pride problem, not a budget problem." He told me I was being disrespectful. I told him he was being entitled. That's when he said, "You wouldn't even be where you are without this family." I snapped and told him, "And you wouldn't be planning this reunion if you weren't counting my paycheck like it already belongs to you." He hung up on me. Then Tara posted a story on Snapchat about how support is louder than words and how people who say they care disappear when it's time to show it. No names, but everyone knew exactly who she meant. I started getting DMs asking if I was okay, if I was stressed, if I was having money problems. Not one person asked if anyone had actually asked me to fund this thing. I finally replied to one relative and said, "No one ever asked me to pay for anything. People just decided I would." That got got back to my mom, and she called me furious, saying I was making the family look divided and airing issues that should stay private. I told her she made it public when she told everyone I backed out of something I never agreed to. She said, "So now you're trying to embarrass us." I said, "You already did that. I'm just not covering for it." She started crying and said I was being cruel and that all she wanted was for the reunion to be nice. I said nice doesn't require branding, banners, and pretending we're something we're not. She said I was attacking Tara. I said Tara attacked my wallet. Then Tara messaged me again, this time angry, saying vendors were waiting and people were asking questions and I was making her look irresponsible. I told her she looked irresponsible because she acted irresponsibly. She said, "You always think you're smarter than everyone." I told her no, I just think I shouldn't pay for her business promotion. She said, "You could help and not even feel it." I said, "That doesn't make it yours to spend." She told me I was greedy. I told her she was bold for someone spending other people's money. She told me I was jealous of her ambition. I told her ambition doesn't include assigning invoices to relatives. She said I was ruining her reputation. I told her she built that situation herself. By that point, family members had basically split into two types of messages. People telling me to just pay and keep the peace, and people telling me I should at least cover part of it so Tara doesn't look bad. No one was telling Tara to change her plans. No one was telling my mom and uncle to admit they jumped the gun. It was all somehow my responsibility to fix. I finally sent one message in the family WhatsApp saying, "I never agreed to sponsor anything. I'm not paying for this event. Please stop telling people I backed out of something I never approved." My mom immediately replied that I was embarrassing her in front of everyone. My uncle said I was being selfish and dramatic. Tara said I was sabotaging family unity for personal pride. I told them family unity apparently only matters when my bank account is involved. That's where things stand right now. Plans are still moving. People are still acting like I'm the problem, and I'm getting more pressure than ever to just fix it. I haven't agreed to anything. I haven't paid for anything. Update 1. Instead of confronting me, people started acting like the money was already approved and I was just being slow about sending it. Vendors started messaging me directly. Not invoices, not contracts, just casual check-ins like, "Hey, just seeing when the deposit is coming through so we can lock your spot," and "We're holding your package, just need confirmation on payment." I hadn't contacted any of these people. I hadn't signed anything, which meant someone else had been giving out my name and number like it was part of the planning kit. So I called Victor. He didn't deny it, not even a little. He said they assumed I would help because I've never let the family look bad before. I said, "So this is about appearances now?" He said, "It's about pride. People talk when things look small." I said, "Then you pay for the big version." He said I was missing the point and that my financial stability puts me in a leadership role whether I like it or not. I told him leadership doesn't mean open wallet. He said I was being rigid and selfish about resources that could benefit everyone. I said he was being very relaxed about spending money that wasn't his. He told me I was acting like I was above the family. I told him no, I was acting like an adult who didn't agree to finance other people's plans. He said, "You're choosing money over relationships." I said, "No, you're choosing optics over honesty." That call ended with him telling me I was going to regret letting this blow up. Then Tara posted on Facebook about how small-minded people can't see long-term growth and how some folks would rather keep things basic than let others shine. She didn't name me. She didn't have to. People started messaging me asking why I was against Tara's business, why I couldn't just be supportive, why I was being negative when someone was trying to build something. I told one relative I wasn't against anything, I just wasn't funding it. They said, "But it's just helping family." I said, "It's helping a business using a family event as advertising." They said I was splitting hairs. I said, "No, I'm splitting bills." Another person told me I was being controlling by refusing to cooperate. I said, "Controlling would be approving expenses I didn't agree to." They said I was creating drama. I said, "I didn't start the spending spree." Then my brother Evan messaged me and said I was turning into that relative who thinks money makes them untouchable. I told him if I were untouchable, people wouldn't be reaching into my finances like it's a shared account. He said I was acting superior. I told him superiority would be assuming other adults can't plan events without my paycheck. He said I used to be chill and now I'm defensive. I said I got defensive when people started assigning me bills. He told me to stop acting like a victim. I told him to stop acting like my budget is his business. That conversation ended with him telling me I needed to get over myself. Then my mom invited me to what she called a planning discussion. I knew it wasn't a discussion the second I walked in. Tara was there. Victor was there. My mom Clara was there. My Aunt Marla was there. Papers were spread out. Screens were open. Price tiers highlighted. They were already comparing packages. Tara looked at me and said, "Okay, so if we finalize tonight, we can still get the premium setup." I said, "You shouldn't be finalizing anything with my name attached to it." Victor said I was being dramatic and that no one was forcing me. I said, "You literally literally told vendors I was paying. He said that was just to keep things moving. I said, you kept it moving into my bank account. Tara said I was killing momentum and that if I cared about family unity, I'd stop acting like this was a personal attack. I told her if she wanted business investors, she should talk to investors, not relatives. She said I was jealous because people were finally paying attention to her. I laughed and it came out sharp. I said, you think I'm jealous of you needing my money to be taken seriously? She called me bitter. I called her reckless. My mom told us both to stop and said I was being unnecessarily confrontational and that Tara was just trying to improve things for everyone. I said, she's improving her brand. Everyone else is just the backdrop. Marla said I was twisting intentions and making it sound ugly on purpose. I said intentions don't pay invoices. Victor said I was embarrassing the family by making this about money. I said they made it about money the second they picked vendors without paying. Tara stood up and said if I wasn't going to support her, I should at least stop blocking her. I said I'm not blocking anything. I'm just not sponsoring it. She said, then say it with your chest that you don't care about us. I said, don't confuse refusal with indifference. She said, wow, cool. I said, and you're entitled. My mom said I was being cruel and that I was punishing Tara for being ambitious. I said, no, I'm refusing to fund ambition that never asked for permission. Victor said I was acting like a stranger, not family. I said, funny, because strangers don't usually send me their shopping lists. Marla said I was taking this too personally. I said, you made it personal when you put my name on expenses. Tara said I was selfish. I said she was bold. Victor said I was ungrateful. I said he was manipulative. My mom said I was tearing the family apart over money. I said, no, you're trying to glue it together with my wallet. That room was loud. Everyone talking over everyone. People telling me to calm down while raising their own voices. People telling me to be understanding while refusing to hear the word no. I left before it turned into something worse. After that, things went quiet for a few days. Not peaceful quiet, strategic quiet. Then the invitations went out with Tara's business logo printed on them and my name listed under family sponsors. Not asked, not approved, just placed there like a fact. Update 2. I didn't say anything about the invitations at first. Not to my mom, not to Tara, not to Victor. I let them think it slid. What I did do was start replying to the vendors. Because once my name is on something, it becomes a problem even if I never agreed to it. So I emailed every single one and said, I'm not a sponsor. I'm not authorizing payments. Any invoices sent to me will be declined. Within 2 hours, my phone started vibrating like it was possessed. I'll take a quick break here to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying the story and tell us if something like this has ever happened to you. Victor called first. He didn't even say hi. He said, what did you do? I said, I corrected the lie. He said vendors were pulling packages, that people were confused, that I was creating chaos. I said, no, I removed myself from chaos you already created. He said I was humiliating Tara. I said, you humiliated me by using my name like a credit card. He said I could have talked to them first. I said, I tried. You told me it was already moving. He yelled that I was sabotaging the whole thing. I told him he sabotaged it the second he promised money that wasn't his. He hung up on me. Then Tara called. She was crying, but not quietly. Loud, dramatic, shaky breath, crying like she wanted witnesses. She said vendors were threatening to cancel and that she looked like an idiot. I said, you look confident enough when you put your logo on the invite. She snapped and said I was punishing her for being ambitious. I said, I'm not punishing you. I'm not funding you. She said, you always have to be in control. I said, you literally listed me as a sponsor without asking. She said that was just formal wording. I said, formal wording costs real money. She told me I was obsessed with money. I said, funny, because I'm the only one being asked for it. Then she changed tactics. She said people were starting to talk and that I was making her look unstable. I said, you did that yourself when you sold a budget you didn't have. She said I was jealous that people were finally respecting her. I said, respect doesn't come with invoices. She called me heartless. I told her to stop calling me when she wanted to pressure me into paying for her image. She screamed that I was ruining everything. I hung up. Then my mom texted, can you please stop? This is getting out of hand. I replied, it got out of hand when my name was printed without permission. She said, families help each other. I said, families don't draft each other into business deals. She didn't respond. What I didn't expect was what happened next. Tara posted again, not vague this time. She wrote about family members who weaponize money to control outcomes and how some people can't stand when the spotlight isn't on them and how support should be unconditional. People started commenting. Some of them were tagging me, not directly attacking, but things like, hope everyone can work this out and money shouldn't come between family and success makes people uncomfortable. That's when I lost patience. I commented. I said, don't confuse refusing to bankroll a business with sabotaging it. I never agreed to be a sponsor. My name was added without consent. Tara deleted the post within 10 minutes. Then she messaged me privately and said I embarrassed her publicly. I told her she embarrassed herself publicly and didn't like that I corrected the story. She said people people were already forming opinions. I said, so was I supposed to just take the hit quietly? She said yes. That night, Evan called. He sounded exhausted, not angry. He said, they're freaking out. Tara's losing vendors. Mom's stressed. Victor's blaming you. I said, of course he is. Evan said I could fix it if I just covered the deposits and let them handle the rest. I said, so the solution is still me paying. He said it would smooth things over. I said smoothing things over is just paying for silence. He said I was being stubborn. I said he was being convenient. He got quiet and said, you know they don't have backup money. I said, then they shouldn't have promised premium packages. He said Tara built her whole plan around this. I said, around my wallet. He said I was acting like this was personal. I said, it became personal when my name got printed. He said, you're going to blow up relationships over this. I said, they already blew them up. I just didn't rebuild them. He didn't argue after that. The real explosion happened 2 days later. My mom asked me to come over again to clear the air. I knew better, but I went anyway. Same people, same lineup, but the energy was different. No list this time. No packages. Just tension. Victor started immediately and said vendors were backing out and that they looked unreliable now. I said, then don't sell services you can't afford. Tara said I was enjoying this. I laughed again, not nicely again, and said, yeah, this is my idea of fun. She said I wanted to prove I had power. I said, I didn't ask for power. You handed it to me when you spent money I didn't agree to. She said everyone knew I could afford it. I said, ability is not obligation. Victor said I was hiding behind technicalities. I said, contracts are literally technicalities. My mom said I was being cold and that I could at least compromise. I asked what compromise meant. She said maybe I could fund part of it and let Tara handle the rest. I said, so again, I pay. Tara said I was obsessed with winning. I said, you're obsessed with pretending this isn't about money. Then she said something new. She said I never support her unless it benefits me. That caught me off guard. I asked what she meant. She said I never promoted her work, never shared her posts, never hyped her projects. I said, so this was also about attention. She said it was about loyalty. I said, loyalty isn't marketing. She said I should want her to succeed. I said, I want you to succeed without dragging me into your invoices. Victor said I was selfish. I said, selfish would be promising money I don't have. I didn't do that. Then Tara dropped it. She said, fine. If you won't support me, I'll find someone who will. Victor looked confused. My mom looked confused. I asked what she meant. She said she already had someone else interested in sponsoring part of the setup and that she didn't need me anymore. I said, then why is this still my problem? She said because now everything was delayed and it was my fault vendors pulled out. I said, no, it's your fault for telling them I was paying. Victor asked who the new sponsor was. Tara didn't answer. That's when Victor's phone went off. He checked it and his face changed. He looked at Tara and said, is this about the message I just got? She told him not now. He said, did you ask him? Everyone froze. My mom asked who he was talking about. Victor said Tara had reached out to someone connected to one of the vendors and pitched the whole thing again, but this time without mentioning me. And that person thought the whole setup was messy and unprofessional and backed out entirely. So now not only were they losing the original packages, they were losing alternative options too. Tara snapped and said she was trying to fix things. Victor said she made it worse. She said he promised things he couldn't deliver. He said she sold plans that depended on me. They started yelling at each other. Not at me, at each other. My mom tried to stop them. Marla started taking Victor's side. Evan wasn't there, but his name came up about how he wouldn't step in. And suddenly, I wasn't the center of it anymore. I was just sitting there while they tore into each other over decisions, promises, embarrassment, reputation, and who told who what. Eventually, Tara turned back to me and said if I'd just paid from the beginning, none of this would have happened. I stood up. I said, no, if you hadn't lied from the beginning, none of this would have happened. Victor said this whole thing spiraled because I refused to help. I said, it spiraled because you assumed help meant control over my money. My mom said we were all hurting each other. I said, I didn't print anyone's name without permission. Nobody had anything to say to that. So I left. The fallout didn't happen all at once. It dragged. Vendors got canceled. Packages got downgraded. Some plans disappeared completely. Tara stopped talking to me. Victor barely did. My mom sent a few messages about how sad she was that things turned out this way. Evan stayed neutral and stopped trying to mediate. A few weeks later, I found out through someone else that Tara had switched directions and partnered with someone unrelated to the family for a smaller setup tied to a different event entirely. No family sponsors listed. No logos on invitations. Just her business scaled down. Victor blamed her. She blamed him. Neither blamed themselves. They both still blamed me. But they stopped asking me for money. Family gatherings got awkward. Not explosive, just quiet. Conversations cut short when I walked in. People choosing sides by who they sat near, not by what they said. No big apology ever happened. No big reconciliation either. Just a reset where everyone kept their distance and pretended nothing major had happened, even though the shape of everything had changed. My name never showed up on another vendor list again, and no one tried to spend my money without asking after that. The end. Your family tried to turn a reunion into Tara's free Shark Tank episode, using your wallet as the prize money. She pitched elevated vibes, banners, fancy food, custom swag for her brand. Mom and Uncle Victor greenlit it, all assuming Nina's got deep pockets. She'll love being the hero. They told vendors it's covered, slapped your name on invites as sponsor. And when you said fuck no, I never agreed, the guilt parade hit. Family helps family. You're cold, jealous of her ambition, forgetting where you came from. Passive-aggressive stories, fake crying, vendor spam, the works. They lied, forged your involvement, pressured you in group chats and ambushes, then blamed you when the house of cards collapsed and vendors bailed. Tara pivoted to some rando sponsor who also dipped because her shit's messy. Now everyone's salty, distant, and oddly quiet about money asks. Roast verdict, short and vulgar. Tara's a ballsy leech who treats relatives like venture capitalists with no equity. Mom and Victor are spineless enablers who'd sell your kidney for family pride. The rest are sheep who think support equals silent ATM. You, stone cold legend who said no, protected your bag, and let their entitlement circus burn itself down. NTA times 1000. Not a spec. You didn't ruin shit. You just refused to be the unpaid producer of someone else's ego trip. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite.